Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Dillon James right here on JDF Sports, here to talk to you about the latest and greatest in the NFL. We just saw the return of Fitz and Tyrell right here on JDF Sports if you were watching before. If you've switched over to our show, thank you for watching. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel, JDF Sports. We were hovering around 300. We might have hit 300 already. I'm not sure. I'm not looking at the stats currently, but hopefully we're getting there. If we haven't got there yet, feel free to drop a subscribe or share it with your friends. Have them subscribe as well. Love to get as many people in here as possible and to bring you all of the sports news all of the time. I am joined by Tyler Sorensen, none other than the producer and co-host himself of Out of Bounds. Tonight we have a lot to talk about. Some upsets, including the Green Bay Packers, which I'm sure Tyler will get into during his Packers update later in the show. I'm sure that will be fun to listen to. As much fun as the Titans having just another terrible performance this past Sunday against Indianapolis Colts at home, where Brian Callahan was booed off the field after the first half, leading into halftime, where they had a Ring of Honor induction of Mike Keith, former Titans, voice of the Titans, Mike Keith. He had a ceremony at halftime, and in the tunnel when the booing was happening was none other than Titans controlling owner Amy Adams Strunk. So I'm sure she wasn't really happy about that. But we'll talk about some changes that have happened in Tennessee since that game. We'll also be discussing Jaxson Dart getting the start in New York City. Should be fascinating. Actually, well, I guess you could say Jersey. But yeah, a lot going on in the NFL to talk about. We will dive straight into it. And we do have someone joining us this evening that doesn't necessarily need an introduction. This man has been with the show for a while now, almost a little over a year now. But we are getting graced by his presence once again this evening because he does not have school this evening. Alex is here with us in a different camera angle this time. Different camera angle. I like that.
I'm back, baby.
You're back.
I'm back.
What a great time to be back as a Titans fan.
Woo-wee! I saw all that stuff going down, and I was like, how serendipitous it is that I don't have to drive to the coast this Wednesday.
It's glorious. It's glorious. We'll have a really, really good conversation about that, I'm sure. We have not talked about it offline either. So Alex shared that he would be on the show tonight and shared that he had some thoughts. So I'm really excited to see how that conversation goes, and I'm sure Tyler will love to be a third party in that conversation since it will not be about his Green Bay Packers and the way they lost to the Cleveland Browns this weekend. Anyway, Let's get into the show. We have a lot to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is I guess the biggest news coming out of the week. Jaxson Dart is now the starting quarterback with the New York Giants. Russell Wilson is getting benched after a very lackluster performance this past weekend in prime time. I don't know if you guys saw this game or not. I watched it. The one series that really stuck out to me was when they were trying to get down to the end. I think it was in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. Russell Wilson drove them down into red zone territory.
I know exactly what drive you're talking about.
Russell Wilson, first, he was in the pocket, threw it out of bounds, just threw it into the tunnel from the pocket, got a grounding penalty, loss of downs, went to second down. At that point, I forgot what the play was, but it wasn't a good throw from what I remember. The last throw on this drive, though, was what killed me. It was a fourth down play. Russell Wilson throws it to the end zone. It hits off the bottom of the field goal post and just bounced straight into the dirt. I don't know who he was throwing to. I didn't see a wide receiver in the area he was throwing to. It didn't look like a veteran quarterback who has been to a Super Bowl, a play that he would make in a football game. But here we are. So now the Giants have, in the words of Brian Daboll, made a desperation move. That's what he called this. A desperation move to move from Russell Wilson, Super Bowl winner, and Pro Bowler and what have you, to Jaxson Dart, the rookie from Ole Miss. What are your thoughts on this move? Is Russell Wilson cooked? I mean, this is the third team he's been on now that he's been just dropped and just not doing so hot in the Big Apple, what they thought they would get out of Russell Wilson. But they're starting the quarterback, the rookie, very early because it sounded like they were going to be trying to bench him the rest of the season to let him learn behind Russell Wilson. But I don't know what he's learning with all the plays that I saw this past weekend.
Yeah, no, this Giants team, it just doesn't have, the vibes are off with Wilson. You could see it from Malik Neighbors as well, sort of throwing a fit on the sideline, which the Giants know a thing or two about having a hissy fit wide receiver who's not getting the ball all the time. So they're going to, I mean, and you want to keep those guys happy, and that's exactly what I think Jaxson Dart will be able to do. Like you sort of mentioned, it's coming in early. Do I think they have a chance to do it? No. And also, too, for the people that are saying, like, oh, why don't you start Jameis? Jameis is going to do the same thing. Jaxson Dart's not going to learn anything. And I think also, too, with this as well, it's going to show something as well where if Dart doesn't have anything and say they do end up the season like 5 and whatever, they only get 5 wins, Dable's probably out. Like, I get Dable trying to coach for his job right now. If they only get 5 wins, Dable's out. But if say Dart shows something and say Dable just can't get anything with it, Dable's probably out, which I think this is a good turning point for them. Get him in early. Obviously, everybody's like, why don't you sit the rookie quarterback, especially because he does need it. But I think at this point, you're all about like, hey, let's try to get butts to seats. And if you guys start 0-4, that's not going to happen. You guys are going to have nobody in your seats anymore. It's New York, New Jersey. These fans, you've seen it before. When there's nothing going on, they start to watch other sports, i.e. baseball and basketball that's coming up. And they want to the Giants want to have a little bit of that pie.
Alex?
Yeah, I think you're already in a situation where your team looks like it's probably crap, right? I think you just keep the kid on the seat, right? Part of the big problem that I saw, at least in the first 2 weeks, I didn't catch a whole lot of this game, just some highlights. But one of the things I saw in the first 2 weeks is that Russ didn't have a chance because the O-line looked like Swiss cheese. So now you're putting this fresh, young rookie out there in front of 5 pieces of paper, essentially. Like, what are you doing for him by putting him out there? I don't think you're necessarily setting him up for success. I think if you're looking for a desperation move, putting your rookies out there is not the desperation move. Your desperation move is like, I think for me is like, okay, I don't know, fuck it, put Jameis in there. I mean, at least that's an exciting brand of football, right? Are we going to score 4 touchdowns today? Or is the defense going to score 4 touchdowns today? I don't know.
Jameis going to throw 14 picks.
Right. I mean, like, it's an exciting brand of football. And we probably get some mic'd up Jameis. Like, I think, like, if you're talking about butts and seats and, like, trying to, those social media views and stuff like that, I think Jameis is the option if you're looking at a desperation move. When I look at the New York Giants and what they are right now, unless there is something in practice, like, and I'm talking specifically like a clear connection between Jaxson Dart and Malik Neighbors, I just don't see the reason in putting him out there. Because if he goes out there and, let's say, first 2 games looks like complete garbage, you've got yourself an even worse situation. Because now your fans not only think, oh, great, our team sucks. They also now think, oh, great, also our team has no future.
See, the only thing I got to say about that, too, is that the Giants' schedule this year is just so bad. It's so tough for them for no reason, really. Obviously, they do play in the NFC East, so that's a little bit of it as well, but they have the Chargers this week who look amazing right now. Then they have the Saints. That's really their only game that's, I would say, easy compared to everything else. They've got the Saints, and they got the Eagles, Broncos, 49ers, Bears, Packers, Lions. Like, there's your next, like, 8 or 9. So it's going to be a tough season. But, I mean, honestly, like, if you show, like, say say Dart doesn't get wins, but say Dart actually looks like a good quarterback. Say he's able to hit people on stride. I think the only thing that Russell Wilson had that we'll talk about this a little bit later with another game, with the Cowboys game, but he had that deep ball, which is really like the only thing he really had. But he doesn't have accuracy anymore. He can't move. He can't really do anything. Whereas Jaxson Dart has a little bit of electricity to him that I feel like just what Wilson just doesn't have anymore. That I think could improve this offense a little bit more. It's sort of like I feel like we talk. I don't know if we've talked with this a lot, but I've heard a lot where it's like you draft a quarterback who can run to raise the floor. And that's exactly what the Giants are doing right now. Russell Wilson cannot move. That's been the biggest thing in recent years, is that he just doesn't have the scramble factor. He never really did, but he could move more in the pocket beforehand. Now you're sort of raising the floor a little bit more, having Dart who's been in those sort of read option opportunities. I think he's only been in those read option opportunities. So you're sort of raising the floor a little bit more by having this quarterback who can run a little bit. And then, hey, maybe he wins 1 or 2 games before like the NFC North stretch, and then something like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think this team is going to be bottom 5 again. But I think with Dart as well, I started talking a little bit about the vibes with Wilson. I think with Dart, I think the vibes are already shifting of it's going to be a lot better, especially because you do have this rookie quarterback. And also the defensive line as well looks really good. I don't want to put that behind him, but it's just because the offense can't score points that they're out there so much. And I think this is going to sort of help them as well, where, hey, let's keep it as like a college offense and just try to run out the clock as much as we can and keep these low scoring, maybe 10-point games, and try to do something like that. And I think that's exactly what they're going to try to do, especially against when you have the Eagles 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I think making this move, you're trying to force the decision on Daboll. You're trying to make it to where the decision will be, are you the coach or not that can get us out of this rut moving forward if you have your guy in there at quarterback? Because this is the first quarterback they've drafted that Daboll has pretty much signed off on, saying, like, this guy is the guy. This guy can be the guy in New York moving forward as the Giants starting quarterback. So with that high praise comes a lot of expectations for Brian Daboll. If Brian Daboll didn't think that he could be the guy right now, I think he would stay on the bench. I think we would see a Jameis Winston at quarterback instead. But at this point, Brian Daboll is giving the sign-off. He said it was his decision to switch to Jaxson Dart as a starting quarterback going into week 4 against the Chargers, which you either wait one more week with Russ first, you put Jameis in there 1 week, and then you switch Jaxson Dart. I would assume, because the Chargers are a very good team. But at the end of the day, I still think Jaxson Dart is ready, in the eyes of Daboll, to go out there and at least learn. And, I mean, look, Jameis Winston was only sacked 7 times over the first 3 weeks. So roughly 2 sacks a game. It's not bad, not terrible. The offensive line can hold up better than some lines out there. I'm not really sure what their ranking is in the league, but it hasn't been that bad with sacks. I still think Jaxson Dart has that it factor. He can have that it factor to make plays, make those X plays, to at least stay in games and be competitive in games. And Russell Wilson, again, I know the Chiefs were in desperation mode as well. The Chiefs were looking at an 0-3 hole, which, being a team that just went to the Super Bowl, starting 0-3 in the season, is not the way you want it to go in Kansas City. But I think they were just the more desperate team in this scenario. That's the reason why they won this game by 13 points. I think Jaxson injects some confidence into this team moving forward. A lot of talk coming out of practice says that Jaxson looks really, really good. I mean, have they seen a really, really good quarterback in New York? I mean, and the thing is, you talk about teams, I think the biggest example of this was with Kansas City. When Patrick Mahomes came into practice, Alex Smith was there as the starting quarterback. They were talking about Patrick Mahomes at practice, saying, like, this guy can play. We're not going to let him yet, though. We're going to let Alex Smith keep riding this thing out. But once he gets on the field, he's going to be electric. And he was. I'm not saying that it was that same conversation with Jaxson Dart, because I don't think you have the same caliber of players that Jaxson Dart is playing against in New York compared to what Patrick Mahomes was probably playing with in practice in Kansas City. But they're excited about him. I'm excited to see what happens with him. I think he can be a solid quarterback for the Giants. It is a bit worrisome, though, that you see Daniel Jones and what he was doing in New York. You put him into a new situation in Indianapolis, and he becomes he's a top 5 quarterback, top 10 quarterback right now. Stats-wise?
I think he's number 3 in fantasy right now.
I think he's number 1 QBR, or I think maybe Lamar Jackson's number 1 QBR, and then Daniel Jones.
I mean,
yeah.
If Dable couldn't do that, he couldn't fix Daniel Jones, but Shane Steichen can. And Dable's supposed to be like the offensive guru in New York.
He was the one that he was like contributed with like the development of Josh Allen,
right?
An MVP quarterback.
So I mean there's optimism, but at the same time, there's cautious optimism in New York, which I would have the same feeling if I were a New York Giants fan.
Yeah, and I mean also too looking at it, I just looked at the Giants preseason reps, and he looked. Because I remember there's a few plays as well that people highlighted and people looked at that like sort of had like that college aspect to it. I know there's one play where they did a toss read or something like that, where he faked the toss and then hit the wide receiver coming up the seam. And I think that's sort of how this offense could work. And I think that's exactly what I think Dable wants this offense to sort of look at. And I think especially with how Ole Miss head coach, I can't think of his name right now. Lane Kiffin, thank you. How Lane Kiffin ran his offense, which was very, hey, read the defense, or not really read the defense. You're reading this one specific guy. If it's not there, you're throwing it. If it's there, you're just going to give it off. I think that's exactly how they want to run this offense, and I think that could be interesting to watch, especially this next year, and especially like against the Chargers, against the Saints, who I feel bad for the Saints because they're probably going to go 0-5 at that point. But I mean, like, it's going to be something to watch, especially too if. I think, like you sort of mentioned, he has an it factor. I don't think he has an it factor, but I think he does have that sort of, hey, I can be something in this league factor where, hey, I might not be a perennial all-star, a perennial Pro Bowler. I might not make like a Super Bowl. Like I might not make a Super Bowl, but I'll be that quarterback to get you to the playoffs maybe 5 out of 6 years.
When I say it factor, I mean more so swagger, more so confidence, because you don't really see that with Russell Wilson.
A little bit of moxie.
Yeah, you don't see that with Russell Wilson anymore. After his Broncos Country Let's Ride video, you don't see that from Russell Wilson. You never really, I don't think he never really was a swagger guy.
No, being a Badger fan too, he never had that. That's why he went in the 3rd round. Why? Yeah. Like he didn't have that swagger. That's why he went in the 3rd round. And then honestly, like looking at it as well, I got to go back to that Super Bowl team. But like you think about that Seahawks team. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl and then they went back and then they lost to the Patriots. That first Super Bowl was their game from the beginning. You remember what happened? Literally the first play of the game,
the high snap over the head of Peyton Manning's head. Yep.
So it was just the Broncos game to lose. And that's exactly what happened. And I think, going back to it as well, Russell Wilson just didn't really have it anymore after that Patriots game. And I think a lot of people don't really talk about it because it was that defense that sort of carried him. It was that
Marshawn Lynch that
carried him. Like, and I think especially too, like it's sort of the same thing with Kirk Cousins last year, where obviously I don't want to compare those two because they're two very different quarterbacks, but like, why do you pick up this dude in the offseason to then have a mentor quarterback that you're just going to draft this year, and then he's probably going to get benched? Like, why? It doesn't make sense. If you're going to do that, try to keep a quarterback for at least a year. Or if you're just going to want to get a quarterback to start, get a quarterback to start that's a rookie.
Yeah.
So what if I feel bad saying this, but so what if you ruin his career? Like, I hate saying that, but like, so what if you don't say, so what if you start him right away and he's not the best? Look at all these other quarterbacks that started right away and they're now sort of, I don't say reviving their careers, but now they have that confidence. They have that electricity. Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Carson Wentz also looked amazing last week. Like, why not start this quarterback that you spent a that you traded up to get. You traded back into the first round to get him. Why not just start him and play him the whole season?
Yeah.
Instead of picking up Russell Wilson for that and then obviously paying Jameis Winston, but Jameis Winston a backup anyways. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But that desperation move, we'll see how it plays out for Daboll. We'll see if he'll be able to coach him to be more successful than they currently have been, sitting at 0-3 going into week 4. So we'll see how that goes. Let's talk about the Ravens. Alex's second team, the Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry in this game fumbled yet again in the fourth quarter, led to just an onslaught at the end they just could not come back from in this game. The biggest thing is the Lions, we knew they were a sleeping giant going into the season.
We woke them up.
And yeah, they got woke up. They got woken up by the Packers. They're 2-1 now, but in this game, Lamar towards the very end of this game didn't look very good either. Wasn't playing very well. Just got shaken in this game. It seemed like Derrick Henry, his third fumble this year, one in each game this year so far, 2 of which happening in the fourth quarter and being turning points leading to his team losing. Also, matchup this weekend too, the Chiefs and the Ravens going up against each other, 1-2, both of them. So one of those teams will start off the season 1-3 this year. Insane. In the AFC, those two they were the juggernauts for so long, and now it's not looking so great in both places, in Baltimore and Kansas City. But looking at Derrick Henry, do you see this continuing? Do you see a stop in that skid? You also look, there was another stat I looked up earlier today too with Derrick Henry and his fumbles. In 10 years, he's only fumbled more than 3 times in a single season, twice. And I think he did it in 41 snaps this year compared to 4 fumbles and like 325 snaps last year, something along those lines. Crazy. What do you guys think about the Ravens? Do you think that that's going to be a detriment to them moving forward? Do you think Derrick Henry's going to be able to get back on the horse and hold on to the ball high and tight? What do you think is going on, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like week to week, right? So we take week 1, and Derrick Henry has an unbelievably massive game, right? And then aside from the fumble, like that, I mean, just an impressive showing. Week 2, they barely use him. Like, he was non-existent in that game. Then game 3, right, has a pretty decent game aside from the fumble. But his production was kind of ramped back up a little bit. And, and I know that like last year, it was kind of a week to week thing. They're very much like this week he's going to touch the ball 30 times. This time he's going to touch it 8 times. And I think that kind of fluctuation is really like what hurts Derrick Henry. I think he needs that consistency. Like, he needs the consistency. He needs to keep moving. And so when you're fluctuating him like that, like we saw what we thought were his best years. And then obviously last year was almost as good as his best year in Tennessee. Probably could have rushed for 2,000 yards if, they hadn't like kind of relaxed in the last game. But yeah, it's just, I don't think this is going to be a trend with him. I think he is going, like, especially because of how much attention it's gotten on week 3. I think like we're going to see like that, that beast within kind of unlock, and we're going to, I don't think, look, we're probably going to see another fumble or 2, right? It's not crazy. He is getting older. These things happen. But I think at the end of the day, this is just because there's so many doubters coming his way all of a sudden that have never really been a thing other than like, oh, well, the Titans got rid of him. He must be washed. And then he runs for like 1,900 yards. So I think personally, like having seen so much of Derrick Henry with the Titans, I think moving forward, he's probably going to be like, hey, this is how I do things. This is how I play well. And when we play like this, we do well. Let's do it. And I think, and I think he's gonna be fine. I hope he's gonna be fine.
Tyler?
Yeah, and I mean also too, going to the fumble this game, it was I feel bad saying like
punch.
it was
a great punch
play by Hutchinson. It was an amazing play by Hutchinson. And obviously that's something that a lot of teams have been practicing recently, but you looked at it like that was just straight like, hey, this is how I'm going to do it, and then it just boom came out to fruition. And also too, you're talking about Aiden Hutchinson, who was all of our comeback player of the years, was on pace to break the sack record last year. Still an amazing player. Like, don't forget about him. But it's like you also look at the teams he played as well, and I think we're going to talk about the Browns a little bit later on as well. But I think the Browns defense is legit. So I think that's another reason why the Browns running game looked like crap. The Lions are, like we sort of talked about, a sleeping bear, and we poked the bear a little bit, and they're starting to get their get back now. And I think as well, like sort of looking at it, I wish I had like a calculator to sort of look at the amount of attempts. Last year, he attempted 325 rushing at 1,900. Right now, he's at 41. So it's something to keep an eye on, or 41 attempts rushing. So it's something to keep an eye on, especially throughout the season. I wish I could tell how many. I'll keep an eye on. I'll try to find something like this. Try to do like a math equation, something.
Are you trying to see like how many carries he's going to have this year?
Yeah, that sort of thing. What is it? Just like 41 divided by 3 and then times 17 like that?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's do quick math. That's why I hate doing math, because 13 times... Right, there's 17 games or 18 games? 17 games.
17.
Right now he's on pace for 232 attempts on the season. That would be his lowest, minus the years he got hurt. So I think Alex is sort of right where he's like, he has to have that sort of get him the ball. And I think we'll see that more, especially later on when you do face a little bit, I don't want to say a little bit less lower teams, but like obviously you got the Chiefs this week, which I think that's going to be a game where he's going to be given the rock a lot more. Then you got the Texans, who the Texans don't look good offensively, but their defensive line is still really good. Rams, Bears, Dolphins, like then you start to get to the easier part of the schedule where I think that's where he'll sort of step up. But I mean, like it is something to worry, especially when it is something that like, hey, this guy is like, obviously he's getting up there in age. I hate saying that, but it's like he's got a lot of wear on the tires. He's still what? Like I think it's still like 600 yards away from his high school career. So it's like there's a reason why his legs look like that. And I think also too, people keep saying he looks like a statue when he gets going, and I think that's sort of a funny thing to say, but it's like it sort of does. Like he runs like a statue, and if
he runs pretty high,
he runs pretty high, and it's like if you're able to get that momentum going, then I think he'll be better. But it's like you got to give him at minimum 20 carries a game. Obviously, you got Lamar Jackson, but you got to give him a minimum 20. And so far, he's at 18, 11, and 12. Like I don't think that's good.
I remember the stat from a few years ago with the Titans. I think it may have been the year we went to the AFC Championship game. It may have been the year that he ran for 2,000, or maybe it was the year or two after that, where any game where Derrick Henry touched the ball 20 times or more,
the Titans won.
For 100, we won.
Yep.
It was just that. It was literally just yes, no.
Yeah, he has a volume back.
Any game he had 100 yards. Yeah, any game he had 100 yards or more, we won. Period.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah. He has a volume back. I think there are multiple things that are happening here. I think one, this year compared to others, I think the Ravens are hearing their name. They're hearing the praise. They're hearing the preseason predictions of playoff, Super Bowl. I think that's kind of coming into play here. I think seeing some of the, I would say, more laid back press conferences with Lamar Jackson to start the season. It seems like he's a bit more relaxed at this point of year because it just feels like he's kind of going through the paces to get to the playoffs. I think that's kind of what the mindset is of Lamar Jackson currently. Derrick, yes, he needs more volume. He needs more volume. He needs more carries. He always starts slow, though. Typically in a season, that's just something that we grew to expect in Tennessee. Then he would start the season slow. Once it started getting into November, December, January, that's where his bread and butter was. That's where you were making the money on his contract, were those cold months, handing him the rock and getting him yards, getting him carries. That's where you were getting the prime Derrick Henry on your team. So I think that's what they're really looking forward to. I think Derrick probably had a little bit of that in the back of his mind as well, of the whole Ravens are going to be Super Bowl contenders. Ravens are going to have a great year this year. They're juggernauts in the AFC. I think he was kind of hearing that too, and that's maybe what's kind of creeping in with those fumbles. But knowing Derrick the way we do from being a Titans fans, me and Alex, I think that he'll clean it up fairly quickly. I think this, especially this third fumble, I think it's a wake-up call. It's something that he kind of had when he was in Tennessee with Eddie George. After having some games where he wasn't running the best, but running the hardest, he had a conversation with Eddie George, and that's where he began this King Henry run he's been on since then. He's been on this run for almost, 7+ years now.
Yeah.
So,
And also, sorry.
No, you're good.
And also to mention too, last year Baltimore started 1-3. So I think it is just a whole team like starting slow. The one good thing though that I want to talk about the Ravens a little bit is that their passing game actually looks good this year, which is something that they haven't. I don't think the Ravens have had ever. Like
last year.
Last year was better.
Last year they had a better one, but I think this year's even better than last year. But it's like if you say, oh yeah, last year was their best passing year, when a team's been in the league for what? They've been around since mid-90s, right? That's when they start. That's when they moved to Ravens, like mid-90s, early 90s. And it's like, what are the Ravens known for? Their defense and running the football. And this is like really the first time where they're sort of in the zone of like, hey, we can actually pass the football now. And I think that's sort of another reason why I think they're going too far into the passing game, and I think that's something to sort of take a look at. But it's something that also like I think that it's going to be like later in the season sort of stats compared to like passing attempts compared to rushing attempts. But I think that's another thing too, where it's like, hey, they're leading more in the passing game rather than the running game more so, which is sort of insane to say when you have Lamar and Derrick Henry in your backfield.
Right. It's gonna be interesting. I think that we will definitely see the Ravens get back on the horse. I mean, this game this weekend is going to be huge for both teams, the Chiefs and the Ravens. I think that's going to be a big game. A lot on the line in that game. But as you can see, that a 1-3 start, it's not necessarily a nail in the coffin, but you don't want to live in that realm more often than not. You want to stay out of that 1-3 hole to dig yourself out of to start a season. Even though you have 17 games, we all know that each game truly does matter in the NFL, and it can. So we'll see how it goes this weekend. I still think the Ravens will get back on the horse. Think that Derrick Henry will control the ball and be able to protect the ball a bit better than he has. I'm sure he is punching helmets at training camp. I'm sure that, or not training camp, in practice. I'm sure that they're definitely trying to punch the ball out of his arms and just doing as much as they can possible to prepare him for next week and the weeks ahead as well in the season. But I venture to say we will not see more than 2 or 3 more fumbles this season from Derrick Henry after what he's done in the first 3 weeks, I would say. So, see how it goes.
Most he fumbled was 6 in 2022. That was the most times he ever fumbled. So I don't think he'll pass. I don't think he'll pass that.
I don't think he will either. I just noticed that the chat was not up on my screen, so I apologize. Fitz is in the chat, waving at us, saying 2 more for 300. 2 more subscribers for 300 on the channel. So if you're watching right now, watching on YouTube, hello. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to us on our channel. We'll get to 300, and hopefully we can get up to 500 by the end of this football season, which would be great. And also, fresh haircut, Tyler.
Yeah, I got my haircut on Saturday because I had a wedding. So
Nice.
it was fun. I'm glad that so it was supposed to rain, and luckily it rained after the wedding because it was outside. So it
that's
started
good.
downpouring like 30 minutes after we went inside. I'm like, thank God.
That's good luck though. Having rain on your wedding day, that's good luck.
It is? I thought that would have been bad luck, but
No, it's good luck. I mean, as long as it didn't happen during the ceremony, you're good. So it's awesome.
A person almost got a bird shit on them though.
That's luck too.
It fell like it fell literally a row in front of me, and I was like, I thought that was a raindrop. I'm like, nope, that was just bird poop.
That would have been double luck.
That would have been, yeah, it would have been. I thought that would have been hilarious.
A bad day, but a good day in the long run. Let's talk about Tennessee. And we can't hold it much longer when it comes to the update for the Titans. So Tennessee this weekend had a game against the Colts. Lost said game 41 to 20 was the final score. 41 to 20. The Titans did score, however, 20 points. Their most points in a game so far this season. The end of the first half was the biggest indictment on Brian Callahan this season. That's saying something. After not knowing what a catch was in week 1, with Alec Iomanor getting an elbow in bounds on his catch and deciding not to challenge that because he thought he had to have 2 feet down as well. In week 3, at the end of the first half, Brian Callahan had probably the worst sequence of plays, the worst sequence of events that I've seen a Titans head coach have, maybe ever, if not since the Ken Whisenhunt era, which I don't even think Ken Whisenhunt had this sort of calamity during his tenure. Brian Callahan had the ball. We had the ball at about midfield. About 2 minutes left to go. I think it was 2 minutes to go left in the half. He had 3 timeouts. I think it was second down at this point. Ran the ball with Tony Pollard 5 times to end the half. When it was fourth down, clock was running down. Colts called a timeout because they want the ball back, obviously, with about 40 seconds left to go in the half. Then the Titans call a timeout. And then the kicking team goes on the field. They take a delay of game because they were still indecisive about if they wanted to kick or if they wanted to go for it on fourth down because it was like 4th and 2 at this point. Delay of game kicks them back 5 more yards. They kick the field goal. They miss said field goal. 37 seconds remaining in the half. The Colts get the ball, drive the ball down the field, and get a field goal to end the half. After the game, there was some talk about, I know Bones Fossil came out, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, during the coordinator press conferences, saying that they were waiting for the K-ball. The K-ball is different from the quarterback ball. Quarterback ball they have all week. They're able to dirty it up and things of that nature. This is a very short version of what they were talking about on the radio the other day. The K-ball is specifically for that kicker. They made it to where now they have more time with that ball throughout the day, throughout the week,
whole season,
to prepare those balls to make it to where it's the right pressure, it's the right toughness, what have you, for the kicker to be able to kick a ball. If you're looking at it from a kicking perspective, if you kick a quarterback ball, it's going to travel about 10 yards less, roughly 10 yards less than what a K ball would travel. That's kind of what they were putting it into terms for us on the radio, especially here in Nashville. Regardless, the reason why they were saying the K-ball, they said that the refs weren't giving them the K-ball because there was not enough time to switch out the ball, and so they were going to kick a quarterback ball. They welcomed the fact they would get a delay of game penalty if they could get that K-ball instead, because they felt that 5 yards was going to be negligible at that point, but obviously it was not because they missed the kick. It was actually blocked. That was the blocked kick that happened. It was going to be a 62-yard field goal. And they missed a 64-yard field goal earlier in the game as well. So, Brian Callahan, coming out this week, said that he is giving up offensive play calling to Bo Hardigree, who is the quarterback's coach. Now, you would think the play calling would go to the offensive coordinator, who is Nick Holtz, because people ask, what is he doing? But no, they decided to give it to Bo Hardigree instead. Nick Holtz will still be implementing the scripted plays at the beginning of a game. He'll still be implementing the game plan into the practice the week before. That's kind of what his role has been, and kind of like an advisor, I guess, on game day. But Bo Hardigree will take over the play calling for the Titans. He was the play caller for the Raiders, the interim play caller for the Raiders back in 2023 from week 9 to the end of the season. Did pretty well when it comes to play calling there. He was described as being more unpredictable, which is a word that is very foreign to Titans fans and Titans front office folk alike. Averaged 7.1 more points per game than week 1 through week 8 when Josh McDaniels was there as the head coach. Also, they increased third down conversion rate from 32.6% to 37.8% in that time frame as well, from week 9 to the end of the season. So there were some good things that they were doing, kind of spreading it out to where it was a bit more balanced with the run game and the pass game. And this was Aiden O'Connell as well. They ended the season with a record of 5-4 in those last 9 games once Bo Hardigree became the offensive coordinator for the Raiders. So having said all that, Alex, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so Dillon, do you remember, I know this has been a little over about a year and a half now. Do you remember the first thing I said when like Callahan got announced as a coach? Like my biggest hang up.
He never called plays.
I didn't, because he had never called plays before. That was my biggest hang up. I said Zach Taylor of the Bengals. He's the play caller there. Sure, they're like, oh, he's this QB whisperer. He's this QB whisperer. I couldn't give two shits about that. Dayball was a quarterback whisperer, and look how he seems to be doing as a head coach, right? In most cases, aside from a few exceptions, and those exceptions are these people coming off of the some of these McVay tree type deals, right? Like we look at like Kevin O'Connell is I think the best example. The best coaches that we're seeing out there are people who were play callers before they were head coaches, if they're an offensive minded head coach. So like I'm at this point where I don't like his press conferences, right? I don't like Callahan's press conferences. He sounds just like he doesn't know ball, which is insane. Like the whole thing was supposed to be that this guy knows ball. This guy knows ball. He makes great things happen. Now I have to wonder, what was his role? Right? What really was his role in Cincinnati? Because so far, I've been wildly unimpressed. Aside from 1 or 2 games, I have thought it just seemed terrible. And I did not like one bit the firing of Mike Vrabel. So I will admit my bias. This guy was on a short leash with me from the beginning. But when you just see the just clear ineptitude of this guy through if you just isolated the first 3 weeks of this season, because this season has looked somehow worse than last season. And we were the number 1 overall pick. And somehow this season already looks worse than anything that happened last season. Could be recency bias. I know it could be recency bias. But right now, I think this guy is an idiot. I think he doesn't know what he's doing. And I think if Bo Hardegree goes out there, and if we win this weekend and we put up points and Cam Ward and Ao Manor look like the studs that they clearly are, then no credit. No credit goes to Callahan. Absolutely zero. Because all it will do is prove his ineptitude.
Yeah. Tyler, any thoughts from you before I get to my thoughts?
No, I mean, honestly, like looking at it as well, I took a look at, so I just pulled up his Wikipedia. So obviously he was with the Bengals from 2019 to 2023. And I like how people are calling him a quarterback whisperer for Joe Burrow. And I'm like, Joe Burrow was already good in college. like I know there is a step up to it, but it's not like I don't want to say Josh Allen level where it's like Josh Allen was good because he wasn't good. He was bad when he first joined.
He was
when
at Wyoming.
He was at Wyoming, which I can't say anything because I watched him play with my own two eyes, and he was a dog at Wyoming. He was good, but again, it's Wyoming. There's a leap right there. But Joe Burrow went to LSU, went undefeated his senior year at LSU. He was a 5-year starter or 5-year player, I believe, or 4-year, because I know he went to Ohio State and then he transferred to LSU. And so there's a reason why he was good, and there's a reason why he was taken number one overall, by the way. Not like second round, number 1 overall. You want to know where he was before the Bengals?
The Lions?
He was on the Lions for 2016,
Broncos.
but he was with the Raiders in 2018 as their quarterbacks coach.
Okay.
And he was on the Lions for 2016 and 2017 as their quarterbacks coach. And then he was with the Broncos from 2010 to 2015. Those were his only NFL coaching opportunities. As coaching assistant, offensive quality control coach, offensive assistant, quarterbacks, offensive coordinator, head coach. This goes to another topic that I feel like we got to talk about another day. But the reusing and I don't want to say revitalizing, but like the reusing of talent, coaching talent in the NFL is insane. Because I don't think, because I know his dad is like an offensive line coach. And that's the big thing as well. Is like his dad is like I don't say the prototypical NFL, but he's basically the one that like started the current NFL offensive line coaching scheme. Isn't that the whole thing with his dad or something like that?
He's supposed to be like an offensive line guru. Offensive line Jesus is what they call him. Yes.
Yeah, and like a lot of like the best offensive line coaches trained under him. Basically, that's like the whole thing that I've heard. So why is his son getting all this credit of being a quarterback guru when he hasn't coached for more than a decade, or coached a little bit more than a decade?
He is what some people call, and I say some people meaning Ann Bailey, a Nepo baby.
I mean, yeah, and again, this goes into another topic that we got to talk about next week because I know we're already at an hour and it's insane. But you want to know who else? Shane Waldron. Because guess what team he's on right now? The Jacksonville Jaguars. And guess what team has a star wide receiver that now looks like absolute crap? The Jacksonville Jaguars. But that's another topic for another day where I can rant about Shane Waldron for 30 minutes.
Yeah, and Tyler, did you happen to notice who the quarterbacks were during those years that he was at the Lions and Denver and
just guess who the quarterbacks were.
Well, I know Tim Tebow for Denver at least a little bit, and then it was Peyton Manning. Well, 2010. I'm thinking 2010 to 2015 it was because Tim Tebow was there in 2011. I know that much, and then it was Peyton Manning afterwards, and then Lions wasn't it? It's Matthew Stafford obviously. And the Raiders, wasn't it Derek Carr? He's still there. So quarterbacks that have been in the league for a while already.
Yeah. And were arguably already good. Peyton Manning was already great by the time he got to Denver. Matthew Stafford, he was already great by the time Callahan came around. Like Joe Burrow, and like you mentioned, Joe Burrow was going to be great no matter what. The guy's got ice in his veins and ligaments held together by, glue sticks, but ice in his veins, I guess. So
metal in his veins at some point.
Yeah, he was at LSU for 2 years. He played 13 and 15 games for the 2 years that he was at LSU. He played a little bit at Ohio State. I don't even call him that he played there. But in 2 seasons at LSU, he had 8,000 passing yards in 2 seasons.
He was part of one of the greatest, if not the greatest, college football teams ever, ever combined, ever created.
That 2019 LSU team, like, you look at that team and it's just superstar. Like, there's a reason why he was that good. And there's a reason also why the Bengals went to the Super Bowl the year after they drafted him.
And there's a reason why they went to go pick up Jamar Chase afterwards as well the next year.
Yeah, like, so, I don't know.
Instead of an offensive line, which, I mean, Joe Burrow's out now for at least 3 months, so you probably would have fared better having an offensive lineman. But, hey, guess what? He gets to play with this boy Jamar Chase. And they get to pay all their wide receivers and give their Trey Hendrickson a little bump in pay for a single year until he hits free agency next year, where they'll have no defense. The Bengals are just doing it right, guys. They're doing it right.
Yeah, but you want to go on your rant about the Titans again? So
I loved Alex's point about the coaching staff, Bo Hardegree not getting any credit after that. That's another thing too. People seem to think with a head coach, you're just assessing talent in your players. You're trying to put them in the right places to be successful, your players. However, being a head coach, you should be putting the right coaches in the places to be successful. If Bo Hardegree is a better play caller than Brian Callahan is, and he was just the quarterback's coach for the past year and a half, why the hell didn't you make this change earlier? Why couldn't you understand? Why couldn't you have seen his track record in the second half of that year with the Raiders to say, oh, I'm having struggles with play calling. There's things happening with my play calling. Last year, when he was asked about it, towards the end of the year last year, I believe, people asked about his play calling. Said, would you give up play calling? He said, if it comes to that, I will have that conversation. I will be willing to do that if that's what it calls for. Why didn't you do it before? If you feel as though Bo Hardegree is a better play caller, you feel as though you have too much on your plate, why not make that change to save your job? At the end of the day, you are a head coach. Put the right guys in the right places to be successful as a coach, as a player, everything. You are the team leader. Figure it out. I'm glad he finally decided to give up play calling. It's a little bit too late now. I still feel as though this is like a Band-Aid on the situation because I have a feeling Brian Callahan's gone at the end of the season anyway, regardless of what happens. Regardless. I don't see him staying. Yeah, I could see him getting let go at the bye week too. After the Patriots game in Nashville, if they lose to Mike Vrabel, Drake May, and the Patriots in week 7, kiss Brian Callahan goodbye. Like, he's not going to be here anymore. He's not. So this team, I don't know what they're I mean, I understand making a change. That's the next step. The next step was give up play calling. See what happens with play calling. But if you had play calling, you were the head coach, and you give up play calling at this point, if you still have those game management mistakes like you've been making over the past 3 weeks, and you just have head coaching on your plate, if you just have those decisions on your plate and that's it, what else do you have? What else do you have? I mean, at this point, like Alex said, find somebody, offensive guru, who knows how to play call. I mean, at the end of the day, has play calling experience. Come on in. You got Cam Ward. You probably have a top 5 draft pick next year as well at this point. You have $125 million to spend in the offseason to where you can do whatever you want with this roster. This will be a highly, highly sought after location to coach next year. And there are some head coaching people out there. There are candidates out there who'd be willing to come to Tennessee to see what they can do with Cam Ward. and this offense. The defense, again, I don't think the defense is that bad. There are some weak spots. Edge, yes. Edge is bad. T'Vondre Sweat, when he's not out there, the depth on this team is still very bad. I think we can all attest to that. I think we can all say that's something that they should work on in the offseason. That's the reason why they're getting these draft picks the way they are. Maybe not trading a starting cornerback for, a starting cornerback with a 7th-round draft pick to the Jets for just a 6th-round draft pick in exchange. Might not be the best idea. However, get more guys, quality depth pieces for this team, because the defense, when they have the starters out there, they're actually pretty good. They played up against Denver and played pretty well at Mile High against Denver. I just think that there are good pieces there on defense. Offense, there are some pieces as well. Elikayo Manor's been a bright spot. These rookies have been bright spots. So Mike Borgonzi, so far, I like. So far, I think he can be a good quarterback. I think he can be a good general manager for this team. And I think he can bring more success to this team and hopefully right the wrongs of John Robinson that we've been dealing with for 4+ years now. But anyway, I think the Titans will have a new coach next year. Hopefully Bo Hardegree comes in and just improves the play calling, makes it to where it's less worrisome on the offense and not a detriment to that team, because I think the defense is good. I think the defense just gives up because they see, why are we putting in 100% effort when the offense isn't going to put in points?
Jeffrey Simmons basically just straight up said that today.
Yeah. Why are we doing this if the offense is not gonna reciprocate? And the special teams. Bones Fossil came in. That tells you something about coaching as well. Bones Fossil comes in year 1 for special teams. Have you seen a single special teams gaffe so far this season in 3 weeks? No. In a 3-week span last year, how many special teams gaffes were there?
It was every game.
Every single game. And it's roughly the same guys. There's not many different guys out there. Chimere Dike, yes, obviously, he's the big playmaker on special teams, kick return, punt return. He's been doing great. But the Gunners, the other special team guys out there, depth pieces, not much different from last year to this year. But the difference has been Bones Fossil. He's done great.
Yeah, and the other big thing with this Callahan thing, and you and I did talk about this a little bit after week 1, and I was hoping that this would get fixed by week 2, and here we are going into week 4, and it's almost seemingly getting worse. Penalties. They're rampant. And I'm not going to even talk about the defense, because I think Jarvis Brownlee did have a lot of penalties. When he was asked about his penalties, he said, that's not my problem, that's the ref's problem. Probably played into why he's not here anymore, right? But the offense, right? The offense is getting more penalty yards at times than they are actual yards of progress. You can't win games like this. It just, that comes down to a discipline problem. It is a discipline problem. It's an accountability problem. Like, I strongly believe that what makes a great leader is who they surround themselves with, right? Like what you were talking about with the coaching staff. And 2, it's how they keep the people around them accountable.
There's one
seemingly just zero.
There's one guy. One thing Brian Callahan has not has not held himself accountable at all. He has not come out and said, this is on me. What's happening right now is on me. He came out with the whole announcement of Bo Hardegree is going to be the play caller from now on, saying that he's still, I don't know what the exact verbiage was, but essentially he was saying he's proud of his play calling. So there's no issue with my play calling, but just so I don't have as much on my plate, I'm going to hand it off to Bo. to be the play caller.
That sounds like Amy slapped him on the butt and told him,
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, he did not say that it was his decision to make to pass play calling off. He did not. He said that he's going to keep those conversations in-house. However, he did throw the running backs coach under the bus when he talked about him being in charge of the screen game, which has been an utter disaster this season.
How much longer are we without Tyjae Spears?
Did he get through the whole season?
High ankle sprain. So I'm assuming after this week, I think he was on IR. So after this week, he'll be able to come back. Also, Jax Gamer's in the chat and said this is weird. I'm not sure what. Maybe because he's a Jacksonville fan, listening to the Titans podcast a little bit right now. We talk about all of NFL. Jacksonville has been okay. Trevor Lawrence still isn't the guy. I'm sorry.
I mean, my biggest thing with this whole thing is, well, you sort of hit on it a little bit, but if Callahan can't manage a clock now when that's just your responsibility, because obviously being a former coach and seeing a coach, because my high school team, the varsity head coach was the defensive coordinator the year prior, and then he became the head coach, and he was like, okay, I'm still going to do all the defensive coordinator responsibilities. I'm still going to call the plays. I'm going to have these other guys be my coordinators as well, but there's going to sort of more work behind the scenes aspect. He said, I cannot handle the pressure, so I passed it off to these guys as well to sort of get the play calling, everything like that. I'm just going to sort of be like, I don't want to say cheerleader, but I'm sort of going to be like the time management guy and like that sort of stuff, focus on that aspect. And if Callahan can't do that and be that sort of, I don't want to say cheerleader, but sort of be that cheerleader, be that hype man, be that, hey, okay, I got to call a timeout here. I got to do that. I think he's gone.
He's got zero riz too. Like he does not inspire.
Zero. And the thing is, like, you don't want a guy that has a bunch of riz. Mike McDaniel in Miami.
I feel like that's forced.
Had a bunch of riz. Or he tried to have a bunch of riz. Forced riz. But look where that's got him. He's on his way out too.
Dan Campbell, that dude's full of, he's got it.
I mean, he doesn't have riz, but
his charisma.
Yeah.
He tells it the way it is.
He tells it the way it is. Very passionate.
As well. Yeah, going back to Callahan, but like when you're blaming other coaches because the screen game isn't working. Why the fuck? Why do you? Sorry for swearing.
Then why do you run it?
Why do you run it? And B, why do you have a coach that's just diagnosed, that's just focusing on the screen game? That should be your passing game coordinator. That's a pass.
Yep.
I get it's screen, I get it's a portion of a pass, but that's a pass.
Another big thing too with this, Michael Pittman Jr. came out in the locker room after the game, talking about this. Jeremy K. Gover, local reporter for the AP News. He does a lot of Predators stuff, but he also does Titans as well. He's actually been on the show before. Talked about his time with the Super Bowl. He came on a few years ago when they had the Super Bowl with.
That was like my second game. Yeah.
Yeah, they had the big Super Bowl performance with
Rams Bengals.
Yes, correct.
50 Cent, all them.
Yeah, 50 Cent, all them. Yep. Anyway, so Jeremy actually asked Michael Pittman Jr. in the locker room. Talked about when you see these things happening, the calling in the first half, things like that, just the blunders they're having. Your mindset as an opposing team, like, what do you think about? And he said, well, in pregame, we noticed they weren't jumping. We noticed they were not in it already to begin with. So we just seized the moment. We jumped on that. So if you already have a team that's not in it, you're losing the locker room already. You can talk about how these guys keep coming in, working, but guess what's not working? The whole thing around you. You got to take it from a third-party perspective and say, what the hell is going on here? Something's messed up. I'm glad they took the first step to say play calling goes to him. Let's see how Brian does with just sitting there, watching the clock for 60 minutes, not making mistakes, fingers crossed, on game management, and hopefully holding guys accountable for those false starts, those illegal shifts, those things that we're seeing on offense to contribute to the penalties and the penalty yardage they've been getting as well. And also penalties on defense. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. just got traded to the Jets. We talked about just a moment ago. Brownlee and a 7th-round pick for the Jets' 6th-round pick in 2026. Brownlee was their starting corner coming into the season. He was their number 1 corner because Snead was down with an injury. And you just traded him when you got him in the 5th round as a steal. Everyone said a steal after what Brownlee did last season. I don't know in what world you think that's okay to trade away a starting corner with a pick swap. You couldn't have just traded Brownlee for a single pick? I understand. I understand penalties are what they were. Brownlee talking about how it's more the referees, not his fault. He wasn't going to work on fixing those issues. But one, if you had a better coach in there and talked to him about those issues, do you think that he probably would work on them a little bit better? Holding people accountable, like we've talked about. Denard Wilson's done a good thing, though. I do like the fact Denard Wilson said he's going to start sitting people if they don't start making tackles, if they continue with penalties, things of that nature. So, I mean, maybe the Brownlee trade was a bit of, hey, guys, wake up. If you're going to keep doing those things to hurt the team, we don't want you here. Maybe that's the case. Maybe they felt as though they couldn't trade, they couldn't develop him, they couldn't coach him to be a better player, to not take those penalties. But yeah, at least Denard Wilson says he's going to hold players accountable moving forward with tackling and whatnot. Because Jonathan Taylor had some really good runs on Sunday that were because of poor tackling. Even Daniel Jones had a great run on Sunday when it should have been a sack. Jeffrey Simmons got there. I think Arden Key had the wraparound on that play as well. They were all up in Daniel Jones's grill, and Daniel Jones just slipped out and ran straight down the field for a 15-20-yard gain.
Dillon, were you at the game this weekend?
I was, unfortunately.
I heard that those boos were like some of the loudest that has ever been heard, like at an NFL game.
So when we had 2 minutes left to go in the half, we felt as though, they have timeouts. They have 3 timeouts. 3 timeouts in 2 minutes. They're going to do something. They're at the 50-yard line. They're so close. Put together a 2-minute drive and get points. Hopefully a touchdown, but at least a field goal. When they went straight run until they got to 4th down, they were 4th and 2. And they said, we're going to keep the offense out there. We're going to go for it. Then the timeout from the Colts. Okay, let's talk about it for a minute more. Okay, we want to put the offense out there, but we kind of want to kick as well. Joey Sly has a leg to hit a 62-yarder. We're still contemplating, oh wait, ref, timeout. So back-to-back timeouts. And then something to do with the clock and the K-ball, delay a game, field goal. As that sequence progressed from the first timeout for the Colts, fans weren't really booing at that point. They were like, okay, they called a timeout. Sure, let's figure out our play. Let's get that first down. Second timeout, fans were like, why'd you call a timeout right there? That was where the boos started happening a little bit. The field goal kick or the delay of game, a lot of boos. That's when they started really, really coming in. And then the missed field goal was what just sent it over the edge. Booing happened there. And the thing was, though, too, when the players running in the locker room, they were not booing at the players. They weren't. They stopped booing when the players running in the tunnel. The only time they started booing was when Brian Callahan got done with his halftime interview with CBS, running off the field, right when he hit the goal line next to the tunnel. Boos instantly started roaring at Brian Callahan. And again, Amy Adams Strunk was in the tunnel with Mike Keith, with Ramon Foster, with Derek Mason, with Burke Nihill, CEO of the Titans. All of them were in the tunnel, waiting to go out there for Mike Keith's induction into the Ring of Honor. So they heard the boos. So I'm not sure those conversations were. I'm sure the conversations were not very cheery at the end of the game and on Monday that led to the decision to hand off play calling. But at this point, I just hope it's not detrimental to Cam Ward's development. That's the biggest concern I have, keeping Brian Callahan at this point, because obviously if you're handing off play calling at this point, it is a 95% chance Brian Callahan is not going to be your head coach at the end of this season or the beginning of next. So why keep him if that could be detrimental to Cam Ward's development?
Yeah, I mean, and what did we say after the GM got fired? We said, what are we going to do? We're just going to
fire head coach and get
every other.
Yep.
We're just going to fire someone every other year. I mean, like, I don't know. I think if they fire Callahan and they bring in another coach and another coach does not work out, there's going to become a certain point where, and I think it's too early. I think it's too early to really have these conversations and for this to start being a thing. But at a certain point, if the person at the top is not making the right decisions, like,
I mean, those calls are already happening. Calls from the fans saying Amy Adams should not be the controlling owner anymore. That's been the call for a long time. A lot of people think that Chad Brinker as well should have more ownership of this whole situation as well, because he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been there since Mike Vrabel. So he's like the last piece that's still there. I don't know. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot happening. Hopefully the Titans can show some improvement on offense. If they can get seven more points a game like the Raiders did back in 2023 with Bo Hardigree calling plays, then I'll take that. And hopefully the defense will feel as though the offense is holding their weight and they're able to do something special in special teams. I'm telling you, though, Chim DK will run back a touchdown this year, either in kick return or punt return, or both. He's going to run one back. Man. He's going to run one back. And the blocking's been great, too. That's the thing. It's not just DK. The blocking's been great as well, but DK is very, 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 very good. Let's go into these Week 3 upsets. We won't hit too much into them, but there were some really interesting upsets this weekend. Number 1, Browns over Packers.
Yeah.
13-10 being the final score. Browns defense showed up again.
Yeah, they did. And obviously, I don't want to just do the Packers updated now as well, since we're talking about the Browns-Packers game. Yeah. So, obviously, let's start with the Browns. Obviously, they won the game. I think the Packers had, obviously, the Browns had zero time of possession not zero time of possession, zero time of leading the entire game until the last second, obviously. So that's a fun thing. But no, this Browns defense actually looks legit, which is something that I should have realized heading into this week. The defensive line looked really good. Myles Garrett looks like Myles Garrett, which is obviously, I hate saying like that that's the thing, but Myles Garrett looks like Myles Garrett. I think a lot of people were expecting him to take a step back. Mason Graham actually looked really good this game as well. I don't know if that was just like a mixture of like them looking really good and the Packers offensive line just could not get anything going. Zach Tom was hurt with an oblique injury to start this week, and then he played and then he got hurt literally the first play on our offensive drive. I think he should have just sat out completely. Jordan Morgan came in. He looked like crap. Aaron Banks looked like crap. I think he also got hurt. We're down to our third string, so I don't want to make excuses for that, but it's like, but at that point as well, I think that's sort of a reason why they held Josh Jacobs to 30 yards, didn't get another rushing touchdown. So there goes that record. I think he's one behind LaDainian Tomlinson, or tied with LaDainian Tomlinson now for the most consecutive regular season games with a rushing touchdown. But I mean, another thing about it too is the Packers offense just did not look good. We kept them in there for so long that when we really shouldn't have. I know at the third quarter, fourth quarter, it looked like it was raining. I don't know if it was raining the entire game, but the reason how the Ravens won the game last week was because Lamar Jackson was throwing the ball. The Packers had one pass over 10 yards, and that was to Matthew Golden. One pass. Everything else was between line of scrimmage and 10 yards line, if not behind it, for screens. You can't do that. You can't do that in the NFL. That's a college game. You can't do that in the NFL. It's the same thing week after week after week, year after year after year. As soon as Jaden Reed got hurt, I was worried about it. And I'm hoping that with Christian Watson coming back soon-ish, maybe by the end of October, that looks better. I know he was saying last week that if there's a Super Bowl, if there's a Super Bowl this week, he could go. So I'm hoping actually him being back could actually do it, because he's our deep threat. He's our take the top of it. And I think a lot of people started to realize that. I don't know if it's LaFleur looking at our offensive line, because Love got sacked 7 times this game. It was not a good game. It really wasn't. And I think also taking a look at he got sacked 5 times, excuse me. But we just didn't have a rushing game. We didn't really have a passing attack. Our leading catcher was Matthew Golden with 52 yards on 4 targets. Caught everything, which, hey, that looks good. But hey, if that's going to be your top guy, then you got to do it. Dobbs got 2 attempts. Wicks got 2 attempts. Wicks got 4 attempts. You can't really do it. John Fitzpatrick scored the only touchdown in this game for us. That shouldn't be happening. We gotta have our playmaker. Give the playmakers the ball. That's the biggest thing in this LaFleur offense that I hate, is that he hates giving our playmakers the ball. He likes spreading it around, and I get that, especially this early in the season. But you got to give your playmakers the ball. Like I sort of said, O-line looked banged up. Morgan looked like poo, especially after spending a first-round pick on him. I still don't understand why that's the case. Banks looked like crap. That's what's happening when you got to sign a second-round pick or backup to the 49ers. I don't know. But, I mean, enough of the negatives for the Packers. Defense still balled out. Rashawn Gary is now leading the NFL in sacks with 4.5, just over Myles Garrett at 4. I mean, that's just the Michael Parsons effect. There was a few phantom PI calls that I feel like shouldn't have been called in this game but I mean, when you have Kevin Stefanski yelling at his ref the entire game, that's going to happen. So I'm not too worried about that. There's a few defensive holding calls as well that looked weird, but again, I'm not going to blame that, especially when you do have, again, a head coach yelling at him saying, "Hey, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this," every single time. And then you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, he is actually holding." That's just how coaches work. Our running defense looked bad, but I'm not too worried about it. Quinshon Judkins actually looks like the real deal, surprisingly, which I'm not surprised by, but 18 carries, 94 yards and a touchdown. He looked good. We just the straw that broke the camel's back was just that interception, which that could not have happened. We did not need an interception there. And people are like, "Oh, well, Love looked like crap this game." I think it was a mixture of didn't look good, the play calling didn't look good, and also the offensive line didn't look good. But that interception was really just that was the turning point. And I think sort of hoping that this game is a wake-up call, because especially with the previous 2 weeks as well, we let the Lions and we let the oh my God, who did we face last week? Let the Lions, who do we face last week? The Commanders. We let them both sort of hang around. And I think this game as well, we let them hang around. We just didn't put them away. And I'm hoping that this sort of wakes us up, especially going into an easy stretch, quote unquote, where we have Cowboys bye, then we have Bengals. So, hey, let's put on the offense. Let's step on the gas a little bit here and get this going. Savion Williams looked good. So it's it just needs to be that point where it's hey, let's step on the gas now. Let's stop playing with our food and just kill these teams. So what?
Yeah, I mean, definitely getting the ball in your playmaker's hands. I think that's something that LaFleur should look into in games like this.
I mean,
I think that's something that's important.
Yeah, another big thing too. 14 penalties in this game for the Packers. That can't be happening. I get it's only 75 yards. You technically had less than the Browns, but 14 penalties?
Yeah.
14? That's like a high school team. You can't be
Or
doing
the Titans.
that. Or the Titans. Like, you can't be doing that. Like, time of possession looks good, 34 minutes, but like, again, 14 penalties. That's just gonna ruin it's a drive ruiner, and that's why people don't like penalties. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I think there's a lot to learn in this game, and I think they will. Obviously, like this whole week as well for blocked kicks as well. We didn't even talk about that, but that was an insane stretch of 5 minutes of Packers getting blocked, Eagles getting a block, and then the Jets blocking a kick as well. That was an insane 5 minutes. But like, I mean, again, I'm sort of glad we lost this game. Get this loss out early. Get this loss that we're not supposed to lose out early, and then sort of wake us up for the rest of the season, which I think we sort of needed.
Yeah, and you also got a really good video of Aaron Glenn dancing on the sideline after that kick as well, that blocked kick.
Oh yeah, I do it. Okay, can I just say this though? I sort of joked that the Jets were going to be my second team when the Riders got there. The Jets are actually turning into my AFC team. They're just so much fun. I love the Jets. Glenn looks fun. I don't. Are they going to be good? No. I left that train a little bit, but they just look fun, and I'm glad that this team is having fun, especially Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, for sure. Two other upsets I'd like to hit on first before we get to my last story, which is the Vikings blowing out the Bengals. But the performance of Carson Wentz, that's what I really want to hit on. Panthers over Falcons. Falcons were picked left and right for this game. Falcons money line, everyone was going for it. Falcons lost 30-0 against the Bryce Young-led Panthers. Bryce Young didn't really do too much on the day, 16 of 24 for 121 yards. Efficient, but not very productive. 70.3 QBR. The Falcons, though, Michael Penix threw 2 interceptions, one of them being a pick six. He got benched in the fourth quarter for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins came in, didn't really do too much either. Wasn't really expecting him to do much with it being 30-0. But they still plan on starting Michael Penix. Do you think that was a good decision to bring in Kirk Cousins just quickly? Do you think it was a good decision to bring in Cousins in that moment to save Penix, or?
I mean, might as well. This game's already over. Don't want to get him hurt. He's already has an injury history in college. Don't let him get it. So, and especially because the Falcons as well just looked like crap this game. I think this was a wake-up call for the Panthers, but something we'll have to watch out for.
Yeah. Alex, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the way that this game went, especially when you look at what the Panthers had been doing up to this point. They'd kind of started to look like, first, 10 weeks of the season Panthers from last season. But I mean, right when the Panthers turned it on last season, they really started to look special. So maybe they turned it on a little earlier this year. I'm hoping so. As far as Penix being benched in the fourth, right, I feel like that's just hey, throw in the towel, white flag, put the guy out there that, if he gets hurt, we're not going to be quite as brokenhearted because he's not our starter, which is crazy to think. Making the guy that's making $40 million a year.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and I've watched some of the Falcons stuff this year, and I very specifically didn't take Drake London. I had an opportunity to take him pretty late this season, and I decided not to, and kind of glad I didn't. And look at this now. Now we're firing wide receivers coaches.
Yeah, wide receiver coach for the Falcons, Ike Hilliard or Mike Hilliard?
Ike Hilliard.
Ike? Okay.
Ike.
I don't know if that was a typo or whatnot. Ike Hilliard got fired from the Falcons. Current passing game coordinator and former quarterback, TJ Yates, is going to be the new wide receiver coach. So congrats to him. Yeah, hopefully they can figure something out. They have pieces. They have guys out there. Drake London. They got their
Bijan.
Yeah. Bijan too. I mean, Bijan was kind of held, I think 70 yards he was held to. in this game.
Which is insane against the Panthers. The Panthers are not good. I'm sorry. But, 72 yards, 13 carries. But, I mean, again, I think this is a wake-up call for the Panthers. Falcons didn't even pass their own 30-yard line, I believe. That's what the stat was or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. This whole team is just, one of those things where it's going to be interesting to watch, especially with the Falcons, because obviously they're in the NFC South. Buccaneers are going to run that team.
For sure.
I think they're still going to be the team that to take a look at, even with Mike Evans' injury, which we're not even able to talk about today. We'll talk about that at a later date. But you're sort of playing for number 2 right now, and it's there's no real number 2. All the guys that are in there are either 1 and 2, or 1 and 2, or haven't won a game yet.
Like the whole division usually is. The whole division's usually fighting for the number 1 seed, the number 1 spot in the division, and that's the only team that will go to the playoffs. Now, the Buccaneers are just on a tier of their own in that division, and everyone else is fighting for the other spots at the bottom of the division.
Fighting for at least 500.
Yeah, for sure. Wesley Burton's in the chat saying, go Colts. Hope we're doing well tonight, fellas. Colts played well. Daniel Jones didn't have any mistakes, no interceptions in that game against Titans either. He looked good. I mean, Shane Steichen's doing a good job with him in Indianapolis. So, kudos to the Colts.
Thank you for Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor killed it once again, and a huge performance against Titans once again, too. He had 200-plus yards rushing the last time he saw us. In this game, he had over 100 yards. A huge touchdown. Looked like a Derrick Henry-esque touchdown in this game. Ran right up the middle to get a touchdown. One of the plays he had a nasty stiff arm on L'Jarius Sneed. Looked like it looked like Derrick Henry, and who was that corner from the Bills?
Buffalo. The dude who fought OBJ. Oh my God, I know exactly.
I'm drawing a blank.
It is.
I'm drawing a blank. Looked like that photo. Just throwing L'Jarius Sneed onto the ground.
Josh Norman.
There you go.
Josh Norman.
Oh, and also Taylor Lewan and his little arrow bow and arrow with Josh Norman. Remember that too? When he was with Washington? That was great. Yeah. Just Jonathan Taylor's so good. That offensive line for the Colts is so good.
He's currently sitting, I think, at number 5 of all-time yards per game, average yards per game. Yeah. Now, right, Derrick Henry about 4 years ago was sitting even higher on that list, I believe, and just as time goes by.
Yeah. That'll happen
because we're in a
Jonathan
different
too.
era of football. Yeah, he will drop down for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to talk about the Colts.
But, hey, guess what? Anthony Richardson did come in at the end of this game as well. Hand the ball off a few times. So.
Yeah, because they don't trust him to throw the football.
I was about to say, we were down, 41-20 at that point. I said, you know what? We might have a chance. Bring out Anthony Richardson. Let him throw the ball around a little bit. We might have a chance. But no, that wasn't going to happen, unfortunately. Last upset I wanted to talk about, Bears over Cowboys. Bears, this is the best Caleb Williams has looked in the NFL so far this week, which it's against the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb was out as well. He got injured pretty early in this game too. So you really can't put a lot of stock into this win, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that was pretty big.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a correlation between two teams right here that we already talked about. One with the Giants, where Russell Wilson threw for over 400 yards, 450 passing yards last week, and Caleb Williams, who threw almost 300 yards with 4 touchdowns this week. They both face the Cowboys defense, and you want to know who the Cowboys defensive coordinator is? Matt Eberflus. So I think the Cowboys are just sort of done for. I think they're going to keep getting media coverage because they're the Cowboys, but this team is done for. We were already looking at how bad.
Dak Prescott still has comeback player of the year potential.
He does. He's the only bright spot on that team, though, because especially with CeeDee Lamb getting a high ankle sprain, which didn't look good, by the way.
Jerry Jones said he might be out for 4. He might go to IR He might be out for 4
I'm not
weeks.
surprised. I'm not surprised. He that because I saw a clip of it. It did not look good at all. It looked like a bad sort of thing. And then also they're also guard, not one of the Tylers, but the other guard got hurt as well. Cooper Beebe's hurt. Their whole team is getting injured. Like, it's insane. And the Dak Prescott with 31 of 40, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Like, Bears defense looks bad, and you throw 2 interceptions still. Like, I don't know. It's
Which, I mean, I think a lot of that was him trying to come back as well towards the end of the game. I think one of the interceptions happened in the fourth quarter. But yeah, Cowboys did not look good without CeeDee Lamb out there, which will be an issue if that.
And then George
continues.
Pickens crashed out week 3, which was 2 weeks before my prediction. At least I thought
He
was gonna
did
crash out
get.
at least
He
week 5.
was the touchdown recipient though from Dak Prescott in this game.
Yeah.
So,
but
there's
so
something.
I mean, yeah.
My honorable mention this past weekend. Carson Wentz for the Vikings came in. Kevin O'Connell once again proving that he is the true quarterback whisperer in this league. I don't know what it is about him and reclamation projects. Fans in Minnesota are going to be clamoring to keep Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback. If Carson Wentz plays 2 more weeks with J.J. McCarthy on the sideline, I think you'll start hearing some rumbling about, we should keep Carson Wentz as a starting quarterback just because of how well he's been playing. Won 48-10 against the Bengals. That just shows you that riding it out with Browning is not the best option for you right now. You should be calling New York. We talked about it last week. Call New York and say, hey, you just passed Jameis up. How about you bring Jameis over here to the Bengals? It would be exciting football. Imagine Jameis Winston throwing to Jamar Chase.
Hey,
imagine the interception he would throw, but also imagine some of the touchdowns they would get.
Why not call Atlanta?
Who's their third string right now? Do they have a third string?
Ooh,
Atlanta? Yeah.
Let's look at their depth chart. They have... Oh, their third string quarterback is currently on IR.
They're going to keep Kirk Cousins.
They're going to keep Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think Jameis is the best part. But speaking about the Vikings, obviously you had the Isaiah Rodgers, that whole thing. He got like a 99.8 on PFF, which is an insane rating as well. Talking about that. But I found this stat, which sort of talking about correlation and causation. I don't think this is really anything about it. But obviously, so they had Sam Darnold last year and now Carson Wentz. Both of them are gingers. So do you want to know what the Minnesota Vikings record is when Kevin O'Connell has when it has a ginger as their starting quarterback?
I saw this earlier. It's crazy.
What?
15-3. 83.33% win rate when Kevin O'Connell has a ginger quarterback as their quarterback.
It's a real correlation is not causation type of situation.
It is.
But I
really
like
is
this
for
stat.
sure. Yep.
I love this
mean,
stat.
hey, if Carson Wentz continues to look at, I mean, honestly, the Vikings do have a fairly, I don't say easy schedule, but they face the Steelers in Dublin this week, which that's going to be a disgusting game. But they face Steelers, they face the Browns, then they face the Eagles. So say Carson Wentz wins 2 of the 3, like.
Wesley said Cincinnati should call the Giants or Atlanta. Heck, even Andy Dalton, a reunion in Cincinnati would be an upgrade, he believes. He also said they could try their luck with Anthony Richardson for Trey Hendrickson. Who says no? Who says no? The Cincinnati Bengals do.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah,
but
they will not.
No, if they get, I really hope if they get James Winston,
they need to.
That's just going to become much to watch TV.
They need to.
Yeah.
He needs to be a starting quarterback somewhere.
Yes.
I mean, I need another moment like I did last year when he went and played in his first snow game. The clips you got from that one game alone. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. Come on. Come on.
Good.
Give me another
Yeah,
Jameis Winston snow game, please.
He needs to play. He needs to play in Cincinnati.
needs to.
It's just like him just letting Jaxson Dart stick his fingers in his mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Because he was eating the W, and then they lost.
Or trade Russell Wilson at this point and let Jameis stay up there in New York, and if something happens with Jaxson Dart, he can go in there. Because, I mean, I do like the fact him and Jaxson Dart are together. They seem like they have a really good bond so far. You have 3 quarterbacks there in New York. Trade one of them. Get rid of one of them. Let Cincinnati have them, and move forward. See what happens from there. That's all we have for tonight. We went long tonight. We had a lot to discuss. So thanks for everyone who stuck with us. Fitz as well. Fitz and Jax Gamer, who just popped in for a comment. And Wesley Burton, as always. And Alex, thanks for hopping on tonight. It's good to see you. Good to hear your thoughts. We haven't heard you in a few weeks now. So it's nice and refreshing to have you on every once in a while to hear what you're thinking about all these games, and in the middle of your busy school schedule. I know it's a lot, so we appreciate you.
Should have another Wednesday off coming up here in a few weeks, so maybe about a month or so from now.
Okay. After the next Titans home game. Look at that.
There we go.
Look at that. Which will be against the Patriots. So be prepared for another loss. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are 2 subscribers away from 300 on our YouTube channel. So subscribe there. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, what are you doing? Go to our YouTube channel. Watch us on Wednesdays live, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right here on JDF Sports. And subscribe to our podcast as well. All your podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all those places. Subscribe to us there. We love the support that you all give us. Thanks once again for watching, and we will see you guys next week right here on JDF Sports.